Hello. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the stream. Hello, people. Hope you are all doing well today. Bit of a uneventful race to talk about, really, so this won't be too long. I'm joking, of course. Oh man, I tell you what, my voice still hasn't fully recovered, I'll be honest. Hello everyone, welcome, good to see you all. The name's going too quick, I'm sorry to read everyone out, but I do appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. My voice definitely is still a bit gone from yesterday. If you don't know why, then go and watch Backseat Driver on Veloce. And then you'll kind of understand. Maybe open that up as like a separate tab, and then you can watch it after. Also, let me just grab Minton because I haven't shown him off for a bit. Buddy, come here. Yes. Here he is, the boy wonder. Oh, actually, let me turn this on as well. See that? Nice bit of background lighting. Love to see it. Here he is, the boy wonder, the star of the show. Very well put. Aren't you, mate? You're the star of the show. Oh, look at him. He just sleeps, man. He literally sleeps so much. You tired? Hey. Good boy. Right, go on then. Back to sleep you go. How old is he now? He is 3 in October. So how is Albon going to recreate that? We'll get all into it. There's plenty to talk about. This stream's probably going to be an hour plus. But we'll cover everything. We'll talk about everyone. Because a lot of people's races went kind of under the radar as well. Because there was so much going on. Difficult to keep up. Thank you, Toby, for the $5. You know, it was a good race when Williams' double points was kind of forgotten about. Exactly. Point proven, mate. Thank you, buddy. And spot on as well, yeah. That wasn't the big, that should have been the big news story. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Maybe not. Oh, jeez. It's hanging there. It's hanging there. It's like it's on the cusp. All right, cool. So, first of all, as we always start, let's give this race a rating out of 10, please. What are we saying? Out of 10. 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix. Many 10s, many 9s. Someone gave it a 6. A 6? What are your expectations, buddy? Jeez. I'm sorry, but anything lower than a 9 for me is not. Look, this race had everything apart from the only thing this race didn't have was a proper. It did have a battle at the front, but it wasn't like a. You know, Vettel never got past Ocon. It wasn't like got past and then fighting back. That was the only thing it kind of missed. So for me, other than that, it was perfect. It had everything. So for me, it's a 9.5 out of 10. I'm bringing out the decimal points for the first time this year. 9.5 out of 10. Gotta say, the race had everything. An unpredictable winner, an unpredictable podium, regardless of what happens to Seb. We will talk about that in a bit. Battles everywhere. There was stuff going on from, you know, P1 and 2, top of the midfield, bottom of the midfield for points. Like, there was stuff going on all over the gaff, which we don't often see in a Grand Prix. Also, thank you, Samaran Bengala, for becoming a friend of Tommo. Appreciate it, mate. Yeah, the fact that there was scenes everywhere, a bit of changeable weather obviously helped that. Yeah, The race had it had drama. It had Lewis starting on his own. It had like the meme potential from that race is greater than any other race I've ever seen. It was one of easy top 3 race that I've watched in person in terms of live on the telly. Obviously, I wasn't in Hungary. Easy top 3 of all time. Easy, comfortably. But obviously we were helped out by the fact that there was, you know, a big punt at the start. We will get into that. So, right, let's have a brief look over. Also, thank you, Barat, and thank you, Barat, for becoming a friend of Tommo. Appreciate long-term. I've got to sort out that logo for you, by the way, mate, as well. I have not forgotten. Thank you, Hireshkesh, for the 40 rupees. Carlos face in post-race show. We will get into that. Absolute gold. Absolute gold. And thank you, the Genie, for 300 rupees. Will that race go down as the best / most entertaining race in the V6 hybrid era? Also, you sound like you have the sniffles. Take care. I feel fine. It's just my voice has gone from yesterday, from celebrating when Ocon won. Can't believe he won. I was honestly so happy. We will get into it. I think it's easily one of the most entertaining races. Obviously, Germany 2019 was very entertaining because there was just stuff, but that was a bit more wild. It was a bit more, not like farcical, but not in like a negative way. It was just like, there's people going off left, right, and centre. It wasn't a proper, this felt like a proper race still. I think Germany kind of did descend into a bit of chaos, which is like entertaining, but from a racing point of view, yesterday was fantastic because apart from that turn 1 crash, there wasn't really any other big incidents. It was just racing, which is quality. This race was fun, depending on who you support, I suppose. For me, this race was not fun for most of it. I was an absolute bag of nerves. Again, check the Veloce video and you'll see a brief, you know, it's very heavily cut down, of course, a very brief kind of insight into the stress that was going on in my head. But anyway, right, on to the results. So, okay, this was going back and forth yesterday. Vettel disqualified, then Aston Martin appealed, then, well, no, sorry. Vettel was announced as disqualified. Then Carlos Sainz posted a video of him having a couple of pints, right? Because he's got P3 now. His second post-race podium of his career. And then Aston Martin appealed. And then the official classification still has Vettel P2 because Aston Martin appealed. Now, I've put Vettel P2 here. It's TBC, as I've put on there. Because I think, look, if Aston Martin are going to go to the lengths of appealing and saying that there is they're saying there's 1.4 litres of fuel still in the car, even though the FIA could only get out 300 mil. They're saying there was 1.7. This is my understanding. There was 1.7 litres in the car left. For some reason, the FIA could only get 300 mil out, so there should still be 1.4 litres of fuel in the car. Of fuel in the car. Now, for them to say that, I feel like they're gonna, for them to be so specific, I feel like it will get overturned. If I had to put money on it now, I think Seb will keep his P2. So I think there's a good chance that Seb will keep P2. I bloody hope so, because that would be so annoying. Like, Seb just drove a fantastic race, like thoroughly merits those points, and to have that taken away. But again, Seb fans, like, you got to be feeling optimistic. This is second podium of the season, and he seems to be, yes, he's made a few mistakes still in that Aston Martin, but overall, he seems to be in a way more comfortable place than he was at Ferrari those last couple of years. So yeah, We'll see. If Aston, like, surely they'd just take the chassis down there and just get a pair of pliers, open up the bloody fuel tank and be like, look, take your fuel, mate. Like, if it's there, then surely they're going to be able to prove it. Surely. But yeah, we'll see. I know it's, yeah, but it's not confirmed that he's disqualified because Aston Martin's appeal has not yet been carried out yet. So it's not 100%. It's definitely not 100%. But we'll see. Yeah, Ocon win. Mad scenes. Obviously for me, like, again, definitely since I made that video on Ocon, and when I read, well, obviously I do as much research as I feel is necessary, and I do a fair bit. I'm not as thorough as some channels, but you know, I try to do my best and try not to put any information out there that isn't true and correct. Yeah, since I kind of read into that, and I read into obviously the Pierre and Esteban kind of story, and I've found myself like, Esteban's 100% like, he's probably my favourite driver in F1 right now, to be fair. Him, Daniel and Lando are my three, the three I pull for the most. And Tommo, I look like I just woke up. I mean, this is just my face. I'm sorry. But yeah, I love the bloke, honestly. I think he's just such a nice geezer. And I just was so happy yesterday that he won. So gassed for him. Thank you, Vojta, for joining Friends of Tommo. Appreciate it. And thank you, Aaron, for the 200 rupees. I hope you're going to talk about this. I'm just venting it out at the moment. Go vent away. Vettel's disqualification was harsh. I mean, agreed, but if he doesn't have enough fuel left in the car, if he's got less than 1 litre, well, it's the same rule for everyone, you know what I mean? Like, I know there's a lot of conspiracies knocking about, but I'm sorry, like, if he's not got enough fuel left in the car at the end and he needs a litre, then he has to serve the punishment. Whether disqualification is the appropriate punishment for that, you could argue it's not, you could argue it is. He wasn't driving anything illegally. I mean, we'll see. Leclerc too had fuel issue in Abu Dhabi 2019, but Ferrari paid fine. I mean, I can't remember exactly, to be honest, I can't remember exactly what that was in 2019, to be honest. I mean, again, this was an issue. This appears to have been an issue of using too much fuel in the race, which obviously, if Seb has used 700 mil too much, because basically, so you need to leave a litre of fuel in the car at the end, so the FIA can take a litre of fuel out to test it to make sure the fuel is correct. They could only take 300 mil out. As far as I'm aware, that 300 mil, they could test it, but I don't know if they even bothered testing it, because in the rules, you have to leave at least a litre of fuel in the car at the end. Now, obviously, if Seb's burnt at least 700 mil too much fuel, if there is genuinely only 300 mil left in that car, then he's used quite significantly more fuel. Because you think about, I did the maths on Twitter last night. It's like over half a percent too much fuel if he has used 700 mil extra than the bare minimum. But obviously, like, add that up over the course of a race, using 0.5% more fuel is significant, you know. I mean, roughly worked out as like 47 seconds. I guess red flag period, you'd say it's a good like 30 to 45 seconds potentially, but that's just doing the rough maths based on the amount of fuel and assuming that, which it isn't, performance directly correlates with the amount of fuel used, which it doesn't, so whatever. But yeah, I get that it's annoying, but ultimately it's Aston Martin's responsibility to make sure that there's, you know, I mean, obviously it's, you know, the driver has control of the amount of fuel flow, but that's not what the driver should be having to worry about. Like, the team should be making sure, and hopefully they did, and it's just a mistake from the FIA or whatever. Hopefully that's the case. But yeah, sucks if he does get disqualified, but fingers crossed. I'm hopeful that he won't. Thank you, Dave, for the 5 CHFs. Kind of funny when Science gets P3 He's only been on the podium at 50% of his previous podiums. True. That's how Seb does it, you know? That's how Seb does it. But yeah. If he's used too much fuel, and then that's it. Like, it's the rules are the rules. Like, if he's used more fuel than anyone else, then he's been able to get more performance. Hopefully it's not the case. Hopefully, like, and again, why would Aston Martin be so specific about the amounts? Like, oh, we've got exactly 1.77 or 71 litres of fuel left in the car, whatever. You know what I mean? Thank you, Mr. EC Football, for the €229. It could be fuel pump problem. Why couldn't they? Could be a fuel pump problem, maybe. Which again, like, a fuel pump problem doesn't merit disqualification. Using too much fuel, yeah, sure, that probably does merit disqualification because you've used too much. You've had, in the same way that Ferrari got their engine nerfed because they were using too much fuel, essentially. Their mixture. Yeah, I mean, whatever. We'll see. But yeah, that's the that's how everyone finished. In terms of my let's talk of the driver of the weekend, not just the race, the weekend, and team of the weekend and struggle of the weekend. Let's just do it. For me, driver of the weekend, Esteban Ocon. Struggle of the weekend, it's a joint showing from Valtteri Bottas and Lance Stroll. And team of the weekend, for me, is Alpine. So, driver of the weekend, Esteban Ocon. There were many, obviously. We will discuss the potential winners of driver of the weekend because there were many. But Esteban Ocon qualified P8 ahead of his teammate. So great start on Saturday and then wins the race. Now, of course, Alonso had a huge hand to play, and I will dedicate some time to talking about Fernando because the man's a joke, honestly. Like, I was so wrong at the start of this year about him. I was so wrong. I was not expecting him to be anywhere near. I was expecting mediocre at best, and he's killed it, man. But I will talk about him. I'll give him his own little section because he deserves it. But for Esteban, like, he was leading that race from the restart, minus one lap, because Lewis did one lap in the lead and then went into the pits. For Esteban Ocon to hold off Sebastian Vettel, who did appear to have the quicker package, okay, overall, there was a few little sniffs. For Esteban Ocon to not make a single mistake, this is what Seb said afterwards, didn't make a single mistake, not one, throughout the whole race. He's never won a race before. Yes, he's got his P2. He's a young lad, French team, first French man to win in a French team since Alain Prost in, I don't know when he was at Renault, I suppose. I mean, I was so impressed. Obviously, I'm probably biased because I love Esteban. But also, like, come on, he won the race. It's insane. Like, to keep all of those laps going through traffic, obviously the pit stop, and this is where we talk about Alpine, because Alpine not only gave Fernando and Esteban a car that could get into Q3, could win the race, could hold off with Fernando's insane hands and feet at the controls, could hold off Lewis Hamilton, who was about 2.5-3 seconds quicker than everyone in front of him. Was it Panis? I thought it was Prost. Oh, fair enough. Sorry, I'm not an encyclopedia of F1 knowledge, I'm afraid. For Alpine to nail their pit stop, Aston Martin had a 3.3 seconds. If they'd have matched Alpine's pit stop, Vettel probably would have jumped Ocon, but Alpine did a 2.3 quality pit stop. Team of the weekend, Alpine, for sure. I understand Williams, but ultimately, look, I think that Williams obviously benefited massively from the amount of DNFs in this race. Right? There were 6 DNFs, 6 not classifieds, and the performances that, you know, they had a poor Q1. Well, neither driver got out of Q1 on Saturday. They were both, you know, obviously started towards the back. They benefited from being towards the back because everyone else crashed. And they drove solid races. But for me, Alpine, the fact that they delivered a Q3 car, a car that could hold off Seb in P1 with Esteban, and a car that, you know, granted, that's more on Fernando than the car, but the fact that Fernando held off Lewis for so long, mad. Easy Alpine. And then, yeah, struggle of the weekend. I mean, Stroll out in Q2, Vettel into Q3, so that's a bit of an L. Bottas didn't have a terrible qualified P2, but his start was atrocious, and then he just strike. Valtteri. And Stroll did the same. The only okay, so Bottas took out or compromised minimum. Lando had to finish, couldn't carry on. Verstappen had 1 barge board. We'll talk about Verstappen in a minute. The fact that Max Verstappen still got into the points is an absolute miracle with 1 barge board. It's honestly, that kid's insane. And Perez, obviously Perez had to retire. I mean, and then Stroll took out Leclerc, ended his race, and Ricciardo gave Ricciardo damage as well. Ricciardo, oh my God, Ricciardo was so close to getting out of that and would have just been P2 and probably would have finished, probably would have won the race because that McLaren's quicker than the Alpine. Daniel Ricciardo race win was so close. Yeah, Stroll saw to that. I mean, to be fair, if Stroll hadn't hit, Charles probably would have got Daniel. But yeah, Daniel almost escaped it and then just on his ass. Not good. Yeah, I think they're pretty slam dunk. These this weekend. I mean, there's good bad performances throughout. But what about your winners? I put the polls out last night. If you're one of my American viewers, you should have had time to view it. If you're one of my American viewers, you're probably in bed right now. But my voice is gone. But did your thoughts match mine? Well, 41% of you put Fernando as driver of the day, which I can't begrudge at the end of the day. I can see exactly why. I noticed on the official F1 driver of the day, Esteban was winning, and then that was before the Alonso Hamilton battle, and then obviously after that, not only was that an incredible defensive driving display, gave Lewis just about enough room to keep it fair, but just kept him behind, just insane, right? Fernando's wheel to wheel, we saw it in Austria, him racing with George as well. Fernando's wheel to wheel is insane. Yeah. And then as soon as that happened, obviously all the Max fans would be voting for, because again, doubly annoying that Seb got disqualified is that Hamilton gets more points, because then he's further ahead of Max, which we don't want to see. We want it to be close. It is still close, but you know, obviously all the Max fans would have been gassed by. Did you see the afterwards when Fernando was talking at a press conference and Max came past behind him and like tapped him on the back and, you know, shook his hand, and then Fernando was like, I tried like as much, he tried as much for Max as he did for Esteban. Not obviously as much for, but you know what I'm saying. Fernando's, let's just say Fernando's not too fussed about compromising Lewis's race. Let's just let's put that there lightly. But yeah, and then yeah, obviously 41 Alonso, fair, I get it. Like in terms of an actual, if you ignore the positions, if you ignore anyone winning and losing, I would agree Fernando had the best race, in a big part because of that defensive display and just quality. But Esteban won, so he has to get points for that. I'm gonna sneeze again. Oh, it's coming. Oh my God, just come out my nose, man. Oh, God. It's made my eyes water now. Why can't I just sneeze? This is a joke. Thank you, Marek, for the 200 Czech. Not sure what that currency is. I know, Czechoslovakia, I imagine. Bottas mistake. Was it frustration from being fired from Merck? Slow start or just lack of skills on wet track? Also, shouldn't be driving skills on wet, taking into consideration the super license. Bottas has had a few shockers in the wet. Oh my God, my nose. Jesus. Sorry. Right. Yeah, Bottas has had a few struggles in the wet, hasn't he? I mean, it's just a mistake, isn't it? Lando gets past him, and then as Lando comes in front of him, Lude's downforce. Bottas doesn't. And Nico Rosberg was saying afterwards, you know, Bottas is focusing on, because he almost does get sandwiched, but he's just about giving enough room. You get it, like his mind is occupied on, right, I need to not have a crash, and then by the time he's thought of that and then thought about his braking point, it's too late and he's already missed it, because he's not even close to making that braking point. You can see relative not just to Lando but to all the other cars, Bottas is braking way later. I meant the Czech Republic. Details. Yeah, so yeah, it's just not great, is it? But anyway, yeah, drive of the weekend. Hamilton got, look, listen, right? I know it's very popular to like dump on Hamilton, to dunk on Hamilton, not dump on Hamilton. It's very popular to dump on Hamilton, to dunk on Lewis right now, okay? But he had a great race. Like, come on. It's an L from Mercedes not pitting him. But if they do pit him, and worst case, in hindsight, worst case, he would have come out in P6, because it looks like, from what I could tell, Fernando left a big gap when he was coming down the pit lane, and Lewis would have slotted straight into that, because he didn't want to get caught up behind Esteban, because he knew Esteban was leading. But yeah, Lewis, if Lewis comes out P6, if they pit Lewis, he wins the race. Like, come on. Unless it obviously gets tangled up or whatever, but you'd never know. Yeah, Lewis wins the race. So the fact that he's able to come through from the very back to P3 would have won the race if it wasn't for that insane display from Fernando Alonso. I get he's in the quickest car, but also he's one of the quickest drivers. And, yeah, I mean, for him to still manage to get a podium, potentially a P2 if Seb does get disqualified, considering where they were after the pit stop, like, that's massive damage limitation, isn't it? So, got to give credit where credit is due. With Max only picking up 1 point, you know, he did capitalise on Max's pain. Thank you, Barat, again for the 100 rupees. Everyone was amazing apart from Stroll and Bottas. Max was amazing, true, with the amount of damage. Alonso was very dodgy while defending, but amazing drive. I don't agree, Barat. I don't agree. I think he was on the cusp, but it was good. There was no point where, when they were battling, where Lewis was more than alongside, like more than 30% alongside. And again, that's the difference, I think, between like what we saw at Austria with people pushing people wide. I think it's different when you're like bang alongside, or like 80, 90%. If you're like 80% alongside, I think you're entitled to space. But I don't think Hamilton, when they were battling, I don't think he was more than 80% alongside at any point. So, and he knew that, and he backed out, and obviously Lewis had a lot to lose by, and he knew that, obviously, you know, yes, Fernando was elbows out, but I think it was fair. I honestly think it was fair. Look up to the light, Tommo. Is it because of the shadow on my forehead? Oh man, I'm so annoyed that I can't bloody sneeze now. Thank you, Paige. I appreciate that. And is that 3,000 people here? 3,000 people. You absolute weirdos. Right, okay. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze, man. Honestly, my nose has gone. Look how red my nose has gone. Thank you, Hipster, for the 5 Aussie dollars, mate. Big up. Thank you very much. Right, cool. So, yeah, struggle of the weekend, Valtteri Bottas. Easy. People put Verstappen there. I mean, obviously it's not Verstappen's. I get where people put it because, in terms of like, he had a very bad weekend in terms of result. His performance was not really wrong with his performance at all. Qualified P3, but, you know, he had a very good start, Max. And, well, he had a solid start. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't... Didn't he have the best start, actually? Or am I thinking of a different... I might be thinking of a different race. Obviously, if he doesn't get taken out, hopefully, you know, he's challenging Lewis for the race win. But he does struggle. Ricciardo's in there. Again, I think Ricciardo did have damage that he was carrying. I don't know to the extent. I know Max had a barge board completely gone and big floor damage. You could see the reflective tape on it. Ricciardo had, I'm not sure the extent of his damage, but he definitely did have damage. And that explains in a big part why he wasn't able to make moves through the field, why Max wasn't able to make moves through the field. I'm not reading too much. Like, Daniel had a very good race last weekend. I can't read too much into this because he had damage. So I don't think it's fair to make too many judgments on Daniel's performance. Maybe Daniel actually did an amazing job to bring it in P12. Maybe. I don't know how much damage he had. But it seems like Max did have more, for sure. But yeah, whatever. And then team of the weekend, you agree, Alpine. Williams, 19% of you, which I get. I mean, Williams, man. Like, of course, very fortuitous, as were a lot of people that race, but this is sport. You know, if the fastest, if the best won all the time, then it'd be boring. But that's not what sport is. And yeah, I think Latifi ahead of Russell. Big up Latifi, and fair play to Russell as well on the radio when he was like, "If you need to sacrifice my race to help Nicky, do it." Big respect. Are they the words of a man who knows he's leaving? Maybe. I think so. I do think so. Thank you, Harinder G, for the $2 Aussie. Mick Schumacher did superbly defending in a Haas. Agreed. Mick did a great job. Again, Max no barge board, but that meant he was kind of pretty close to the Haas performance-wise, apparently. And yeah, Mick was not messing about. He was not giving up easy at all. So no, big up Mick. Thank you to Sean as well for the 100 rupees. Some fans do get pissed when people say Lewis is lucky, but you'd have to be blind to not see that he's been very lucky along with his obvious talent. I mean, yeah, look, it's sport. Like, luck's always an element. Lewis has been very, very lucky. He was very, very, very lucky at Silverstone, not to DNF. And he was lucky this weekend not to get caught up. But then he also qualified P1. So fair play to him. If he hadn't put it P1, that's the only reason he was able to scamper away and avoid the incident. He put it P1. So again, you kind of... a lot, yes, of course, some luck is completely... like Charles getting taken out by Stroll is just pure bad luck, right? But also... you can do things to positively influence your luck. Or you can do things to positively, like, for example, so Williams having a terrible... like, if George had got to Q3, he's probably getting caught up in that crash and then not finishing. But because he had a bad qualifying, neither of them got through Q1. He's ended up in points, as has Latifi. So, yeah. I mean, luck goes both ways, you know what I mean? It does. And some people get more lucky than others, but that's life, I'm afraid. That's just life. That's the way it goes. Not just racing drivers, everyone. Thank you, Field Gamilla, for the $4.99. Real struggle of the weekend is between the Vettel and the FIA. Also in regard to luck, all the greats get lucky. Yeah, I mean, all the greats get lucky, all the greats get unlucky at times as well. So that is what it is, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, again, fingers crossed Aston Martin can prove that there's enough fuel in that car. Surely they can. Surely that there must be a way that they can prove that. Surely. Just get the bloody chainsaw out, mate. cut up the car. It's fine. Like, you're going to get P2. Think how much money that might be worth in the constructors by the end of the season, you know. Clorox, thank you for the $5, mate. Appreciate it. Rick got up to second, third. He did. Him and Shah were looking 2-3, but then Lance came through. Daddy's cash came in like a wrecking ball. But yeah, sorry. Williams, again, fantastic result. You could see how much it meant to George afterwards. And again, I feel like they're the words, the actions, the reactions of a man who knows he's leaving and wants to be leaving Williams in a better place than where he started. And I think he is leaving it in a much better place, the team, than when he started. And yeah, I'm, you know, super happy for Nicholas as well. Like, don't get me wrong, George has had the measure of him all season. He's clearly the more talented driver. But Nicholas, again, lovely bloke. You know what? Like, no one's driving that car for you. Like, he's put that car P8, potentially P7 if the disqualification actually goes through, you know. Yeah, GG Williams, smashed it. Latifi, obviously Latifi still got points ahead of George. Is George going to finish behind his teammate again after Kubica snagged that 1 point at Germany? But yeah, great day for Williams. Thank you, Ishan, again for the 100 rupees. It was probably the only opportunity Mick got this season to show his racecraft. True. I did think that at the time. It's like the Haas, like, that's what I noticed so much at Silverstone. Like, the Haas's are so much slower than the rest of the field. Like, honestly, they were having their own little race at the back. So the fact that Mick was able to demonstrate a bit of will to will and did a very good job. I mean, Max was quite aggressive. Like, he cut into him. Like, actually, kind of, they made contact. But Mick was defending quite aggressively as well. He wasn't like letting people by at all. Putting himself a shop window, you know, as well. I do think Mick's a very good driver. It's just been very difficult to get a measure of him again because he's against Mazepin, who clearly isn't at the standard. Although Mazepin, when I saw that he had DNF'd, I was like, oh, what's he done now? But actually, like, he got shafted by Alfa Romeo's pit crew, and just Alfa Romeo in general this weekend, were just terrible. This is like their worst weekend I can remember. They released Giovinazzi incorrectly. They released Raikkonen incorrectly. Because they released Giovinazzi, didn't he? He touched Stroll, didn't he? In quali or practice or whatever. Raikkonen was released into the side of Mazepin, took him out. Giovinazzi held someone up in, I think it's Gasly, wasn't it? In quali. And they were just 13th, 14th for most of the race. Kimi ended up 11th, might, again, get a point if Vettel gets disqualified. Terrible weekend for Alfa Romeo. Shocking. Absolutely appalling. Thank you, Lewis Hamilton, World Drivers Champion, for the 199. LH comeback was masterclass. It was. It just was. This isn't a track known for its overtaking. We know the Mercedes is one of the quickest cars, and the Red Bull. I don't think the gap between Mercedes, Red Bull, and then the rest is as big as it has been in the past, but Lewis was still able to pull it through. It was a great drive. It just was. Thank you, Elliot, for the $5 New Zealand dollars. The rule is that Aston Martin have to extract a litre of fuel without firing up the engine or removing any bodywork. They will probably lose the place. Really? But then, I guess look, I don't know. Is it something wrong with Aston Martin's fuel pump? Whatever, I don't know. I really hope it gets overturned. But if that's the case, then it might be a bit more difficult because they can't just, get a big knife, just slice the car open. And that would be ideal. Thank you, Harshvarden, for joining Friends of Tommo as well. Appreciate it, mate. I've got faith. I'm feeling positive about Seb. I'm feeling positive that he will get his P2. Okay. Come on, Otmar. Like, I love Otmar Safnauer. I've been talking him up for loads, right, recently. I did my video on him. Come on, Otmar. Do what you need to do, mate. All right? Secure the P2, buddy. Okay, cool. That is that. Right, now we quickly go through the Driver of the Week rankings. Esteban has joined the club down here. He's the latest addition. Vettel and Lando both have 2 apiece, and as does Charles. Mad. There you go. And struggle of the week rankings after 11-12 rounds. This is 3rd for Valtteri. This is the 3rd time I have deemed Valtteri Bottas to be the struggle of the weekend. Not good. Kimi's got 2, Sergio's got 2. Esteban's got 1 as well. And as has Charles and Lewis. But yeah, that's just is what it is. Also, Fantasy League, absolute shocker for me. I'm sure I'm not the only person who got -10 from Lando Norris this weekend. Gasly helped me out a bit, as did Russell, but yeah, not good. Although my global league rank hasn't dropped that much, so that implies that a lot of other people struggled. I was not the only one. But yeah, 53 points is nothing to write home about. I remember during the race, I was like, oh no, Lando's out, Perez is out, Verstappen's out. Oh God. Russell's behind Latifi. I was like, no. Tom, okay, I'm still in the 8.67%. Okay, so I'm still not doing too bad overall. But yeah. Ahmed, you got 209. What a legend. But yeah, not a great day in fantasy. But anyway, right, let's go back to the... I want to talk about everyone now. So we talked about Esteban Ocon already. Again, I was just... I was so gassed. I was so happy for him, honestly. Like, he's one of the nicest blokes. Like, he just comes across... There's something obviously about lanky Formula 1 drivers that I love Alex, and he's 6'+". I love Esteban, he's 6'+". There's something about tall, gangly F1 drivers that I'm clearly drawn to. But yeah, what a day. He'll remember that for the rest of his life. I watched the French commentary after as well, because I know the French commentary after Pierre Gasly's win was sick. So I watched it after Esteban's. It was also amazing. But yeah, so I'm so happy for him. Because especially after he's had those 4 races, that DNF, P14, P13, P14, DNF. I just like, and so many people out there, so many fans out there, just not just F1 fans, just so fickle and so like caught in the mud. Like, Esteban had a great start to the season, and then it seems that the chassis had an issue because he's got this new chassis, P9 at Silverstone, which was a great result in an Alpine, P9. And then this weekend, just phenomenal. Like, qualified Q3, qualified ahead of Fernando to bring it home. Like, I think it's going to be close. I think that Ocon Alonso is going to be definitely the closest battle between teammates this season. I still think Ocon will get it in the end. I've still got faith, but it's going to be close. We talked about Vettel. I mean, yeah, I would be gutted for him. Because this was a big weekend for Seb, both personally, like, big respect to him for, again, doing what he believes in, supporting the causes he believes in. Big up Seb, massive respect for the man. And this is not the shithouse Seb that we used to see. You know, the multi 21 Seb is not the same Seb as he is now. That Seb was cutthroat, man. That Seb was brutal. Fernando destroys Ocon in normal races. I mean, you look over the course of the season, it's just not true. Like, they are pretty close. Like, Fernando didn't destroy Ocon at Silverstone. They were both in a train. Like, he didn't finish far behind him. They're very close. Right now, they're very close. Also, thank you, Barat, for the 100 rupees again. How do you think Helmut Marko reacted after the crash? He would have been like Oprah. You get a penalty again. I mean, look, it's racing, isn't it? Like, come on. I know it's fun to joke about the fact that, you know, oh, Valtteri did it on purpose. But come on. Like, it's just these things happen, and Valtteri, you know, just got caught out. It's fine margins in F1. You brake a little bit too late in the rain with no aero because the car's in front of you, and you're gonna go bowling. But yeah, Helmut Marko, what a lovely geezer. Not. Oh yeah. Charles and Carlos will be close, but I do think like in qualifying it's 6-5 to Fernando, so they're the closest in the quali battles. But yeah, it'll be fine margins the rest of the season. I think it'll be close between them two. Lewis P3 again, already said, fantastic drive from Lewis to get into the podium positions where he was after he had to pit. Obviously, hindsight, that was a mistake from Mercedes. I don't care what Toto says, it clearly was. Because the worst case, right, from Lewis pitting, right, is that because he had the first pit spot, right, the worst case is that he comes out behind everyone else, but then he's starting right behind everyone else on the correct tyres. Whereas he drove a whole lap in the lead, but then pitted and then came out miles behind the next last person on the correct tyres. So even if they pitted, like, the worst case scenario still isn't as bad as what happened. So I don't buy it. I get that Toto wants to, but it's fine. Like, we all take L's in life. None of you, me, or Toto Wolff has ever been right about everything, okay? We all get things wrong. It's fine. It's okay. Guy, thank you for the $1.99, mate. Big up, man. Why a race? What a race. Also, why is Hayden so sus on BSD? That's just Hayden, man. I'm sorry, like, it's just what it is. I love Hayden. He's a good guy. He was gassed for Ocon as well, but not as gassed as me. Big up. Cheers, guy. Thank you, LFC Letters, as well, for the $5. Did you see the Ferrari tweet that didn't mention Seb? I did. Well, this is a good chance because we can talk about Carlos Sainz. We'll talk about Ferrari now. Didn't mention Seb when he got disqualified. Also, what do you make of the Russell radio subtle message to Merck? I don't think that's a message to Merck, Russell, first and foremost. I just think that's Russell playing the team game. And I think that's Russell because he knows he's got the Mercedes seat, and I think he just wants to do everything he can to support that team and get him at P8 Constructors finish, which is where they are now. Regardless of Seb's disqualification, they'll be ahead of Alfa Romeo now in the Constructors. So, yeah. Sainz will have more points than Leclerc if Seb gets disqualified officially. Thank you, Callum, for the quid. Your message has been retracted, so I can't read it. I'm sorry, mate. Okay, yeah. Ferrari, yeah. Charles was probably winning this race if he didn't get taken out by Stroll. Given what happened with the leaders. Oh, man, I've got hiccups now. Thank you, Gesu, for the Euro as well. Big up. Thank you very much. Aston Martin did appeal, yes, they have appealed. And Nico Rosberg was fantastic in commentary. Not that I only heard it in the highlights because when I was doing backseat driver, we can't really hear the feed. But yeah, Carlos Sainz, P15, disappointing qualifying, but his bad qualifying ended up kind of saving him probably from getting caught up in that crash. So yeah, P15 to P4, might be P3 if Seb does get disqualified. We'll see, it's not 100% yet. Yeah, I mean, great race from Carlos. The Ferrari tweet was hilarious. They were like, if you've not seen the tweet, basically Ferrari are like, Carlos Sainz inherits P3 after second place driver is disqualified. Just say his name. Just say his name. He's got a name. it's more effort to write second. It's more words to write second place driver than Sebastian Vettel. Ferrari social media, don't be salty, all right? Let Seb go on to pastures new and live his life. Don't be salty. I don't think they've always done it that way. I don't agree with that. And yet Aston replied with a gif just saying, I'm Sebastian Vettel. Oh, that was good. That was good. But yeah, a bit cringe from Ferrari's social media team there. Just say the man's name. Like, come on. But yeah, Carlos Sainz, all in all, again, shame about his shunt in quali. He did catch a big tailwind, so there wasn't really much he could do. These cars being so aero focused. But again, you like to external aero. You like to think with ground effect focus, you're not going to be affected by wind out of nowhere as often. So again, I'm super excited for next year. I really am. And thank you again, Gesu, for another Euro. And thank you, Meg, for the 2 SGDs. If Vettel didn't crash, would Verstappen... Wait, Vettel? Oh, you've retracted the... I'm assuming you meant... Meg, I'm assuming what you're saying is, would Verstappen have won if there wasn't a crash at the start? I don't think he would. I feel like Hamilton's race pace, and Hamilton loves the Hungarian. This is the place he's won 8 times there, I think. He loves it. So I don't think Verstappen would have won, but I think he would have been P2. Thank you, Callum, for the $5. Let's try this again. Do you think this will be the best race of the year, or do you think there will be a race with even more action? No, I think this will be the best race of the year. I'd be buzzing, obviously, but I'd be shocked if any race tops this, because this was just exceptional. So good. Thank you, Rajesh, the tech support officer, for an Aussie dollar. Appreciate it, mate. Okay, yeah, Fernando. Right, we're going to talk about Fernando now. Fernando Alonso. I was very wrong about you, okay? Fernando has come in. I don't think... Right. One thing I will say. Do I think this is prime Alonso? No, I think prime Alonso, and I've said this from the very start, okay? Prime Alonso is one of the greatest of all time. Easy top 10 for me. If I had to do a list, which maybe I will one day, but then I'll have to deal with the cancellation of not putting people's favourites in. But maybe one day I will. But if you had, easy putting Fernando's in that top 10 somewhere, right? So prime Alonso, were you looking like 2005 to maybe 2013, 2012? Prime Alonso, is this prime Alonso? I mean, I don't think we've seen enough to suggest this is prime Alonso, and I think it's a lot like what you're saying, because his standards are so high. Like, for him to be prime, I mean, a lot of people think he's greatest of all time. A lot of people who know what they're talking about think he's greatest of all time. And I get it. I understand why. When you see not only the fact that he can pull amazing performances out of great cars, but amazing performances out of not so great cars, that's the sign for me of a true, all in all, well-rounded. He's won at Le Mans as well. Like, a well-rounded, incredible racing driver. I think Fernando's really one of the best. Mate, honestly, like, so good. Like, played the team game to a T. Esteban needs to give him a very, very big second birthday present, okay? That's what I'm saying. On his birthday weekend, he's 40 years of age and he's still banging him defensive performances like that. So good. I think someone changed the Spanish Secretary of Defense Wikipedia page to Fernando Alonso, which I love that. Mate, it was sick. So good. Yeah, what can I say? Smashed it. Pierre Gasly, fastest lap, took it at the end, had a gap to pit into on softs, took fastest lap, 9 points for Pierre. Might be more if Vettel gets disqualified. Can we have a compilation of your scream at Veloce? Maybe after. I'm sure Veloce will do that, okay? There's lots of footage that wasn't even used for the edit of me screaming and looking stressed, so maybe. Thank you, mate, though. Appreciate the support. Yeah, Pierre Gasly smashed it in qualifying, P5. Got compromised massively, but didn't get hit. He was the one on the outside when Bottas bowling ball came through and took out. He was to the left of Perez. Perez got caught up in it. Gasly managed to avoid getting caught up. Went down to P12, I think, P11. Came back through to P6, fastest lap. If he hadn't got caught up at that start, who knows where he would have been. It was just a shame. He was punished for his good qualifying session. So yeah, great result, great race. Pierre's just so good. He's so good. He's so good. I rate him so highly. Yuki Tsunoda, P7, great. His performance still wasn't incredible to me. I mean, he was caught behind Latifi for a very long time at the start of the race, wasn't able to, and you'd expect in an AlphaTauri, he'd be able to get past Latifi in a Williams, was caught behind him for a long while. At the start, that opened up a big gap for Ocon and Vettel. It was over like 10 seconds. There was a few times on the radio Yuki was getting a bit leery again. It's just like, you need to like just wind it in a bit. Truly. But I still think Yuki, there's a diamond in the rough there. I definitely think when we have occasionally seen his raw pace, he's been fantastic. But yeah, still a way to go. I hope his performances improve. I hope Gasly doesn't 23-0 him in qualifying, because it's 11-0 so far. Yuki needs to step it up. I don't know. Yuki didn't spin. He obviously had that off when did he crash? Was it in FP1, wasn't it? Diamond in the rough, exactly. Latifi, Russell, already talked about them. Quality. Max Verstappen. So get into the points with no barge board, with that car as compromised as it was, and to still get a point. Fair play, Max. Didn't let the frustration of the situation. I think a younger Max Verstappen would have allowed that frustration to get the better of him, and he probably wouldn't have finished that race. But this is a more mature, more well-rounded Max Verstappen we've got on our hands right now. And he did a quality job. He did such a good job. It's hard to really judge it, but he's got to be one of the drivers of the day. Easy. Like, to get that, there's a whole barge board missing on one side, so that's going to upset the balance of the car. There's all that floor damage as well. We've seen how much damage on the floor. Well, we've seen how much the floor changes affect aerodynamics, right? We've lost like over a second by just snipping off a bit of them floors. Well, he's had bloody teeth on them afterwards. Retty, you reckon Dan let him through for the point? Yeah, but then Raikkonen got Ricciardo as well. They were both holding damage, weren't they? So, yeah, I mean, it sucks for Max because he was taken out, you know, the second race in a row where he has been hit and it's not been his fault. I think that's very fair to say, because it was more Lewis at fault. We're not gonna dig up old wounds, all right, but it was more Lewis at fault at Silverstone, and Max was completely not at fault, obviously, today. Oh, sorry, did I miss your donation, actually? Sorry, mate. But yeah, all in all, I think Lewis can be Lewis. All in all, I think Max can, you know, GP said it to him on the radio afterwards, like, that's one of the most important points you've ever scored in your career. And I think, you know, it might not make the difference in the end, but it might make the difference in the end. So fair play, Max. Sorry, actually, mate, your donation, 40 rupees, thank you, mate. By the way, Ocon was almost going to lap Verstappen. True. But also, Max was in a very broken car. But yeah. Do I think Gasly's going back to Red Bull? I mean, we'll talk about Red Bull in a bit, actually, when I get to Perez. Raikkonen, not much to say. Again, weekend to forget for Alfa Romeo. Kimi's performance wasn't terrible. He outqualified Giovinazzi, which hasn't happened that often, just by like a couple of hundredths of a second. Also, to anyone who just joined in, Aston Martin have appealed Vettel's disqualification, so it's not 100% yet, because the official standings still say Vettel P2. He probably will be disqualified, but hopefully not. Hopefully Aston Martin can prove that there's enough fuel in the car. Yeah, Ricciardo already talked about. Ricciardo damage, difficult to judge. What you can judge is the fact that he didn't get through Q2, which I'm not surprised he didn't get through because it was too close, but with Lando qualifying where he does and Daniel qualifying where he does, it doesn't look great. But then if it hadn't have rained at the start, Daniel would have had free tyre choice and would have had probably a very good race. Yeah, weekend to forget for Daniel, but I'm not reading too much into the race. You can definitely read into qualifying, but I don't think you can read too much into the race. Schumacher, quality. Again, like, elbows out, good wheel-to-wheel stuff, good to see. He hasn't been able to prove that this year, so good for him. Giovinazzi P14, again, this weekend to forget for Alfa Romeo. Just nothing to say, really. Mazepin, unlucky for him. Could have been an opportunity to maybe, he wouldn't have got points, but have an interesting race, but he got taken out in the pit lane. Lando, what could have been? What a start from Lando. What a start. But again, punished for being too good at the start. As Gasly was, as Max was, punished because of the Valtteri Bottas bowling ball that came through and took him out. I mean, I've seen a couple people be like, Bottas wasn't at fault, Lando shouldn't have pulled ahead of him. Are you dumb? Are you pressed? Come on. Don't let your preferences cloud your judgment that much. It was clearly Bottas's fault. He's behind. It's his responsibility to brake earlier. And he didn't. He made a mistake. All drivers make mistakes. Valtteri's made a lot of mistakes this year, to be honest. Big L. Big L for Bottas. Perez, again, unfortunate to get caught up. Perez was lucky and unlucky in qualifying. Obviously, he missed out on his lap, which again, it wasn't Lewis's fault. Just to clarify, you can go onto my Twitter. I looked at all of the gaps. The gap that Lewis left between him and Bottas was the same as the gap that Bottas left between him and Ocon, which was the same as the gap that Ocon left between him and Norris. Perez wouldn't have made, even if Max had got past Lewis, Perez probably, like, he still wouldn't have made his lap. Just is what it is. But if first lap was still half a second behind Max's. Again, I still don't understand why the gap between all the Red Bull second drivers and Max in qualifying is almost consistently about half a second. Perez's average now will probably be about 0.45, I reckon. His average gap to Max in qualifying. But we know Perez is not a half a second slower than your teammate in qualifying driver. Yes, he's not known for his qualifying, but he's not a terrible qualifier. It's just not his strongest thing. But he's not half a second behind his teammate in qualifying quality, is he? Perez, come on, he's not. And it's almost the same average gap that Gasly and Albon had between themselves and Max. So it's mad. Charles, very unfortunate again. Could have won that race. He's one of those who missed out big time. Again, if Stroll doesn't join Bottas in the bowling lane, then I think Charles probably wins that race. And then Lance Stroll, just big L. Again, Bottas caught a lot of the flack, but Stroll took out 2 drivers as well, so that can't be forgotten. But yeah, there you go. Do I think Bottas's 5-place grid penalty is fair enough? I would say 5-place penalty for the incident. I think that's about right, personally. You can talk like Vettel disqualified. Like, I'm not talking about any other punishment. I'm just talking about that one in isolation. 5-place penalty. It's one of them. It's a small mistake, but the outcome is very big. It's a big outcome. But again, this is what we've been talking about for ages. It seems like this is something we've talked about at Silverstone, something we've talked about Austria. Should a penalty be defined by the outcome of the incident? And it's one of them, isn't it? Like, Bottas, if Valtteri does the same thing, hits Lando, but then they don't collect anyone else, should that mean that Bottas's penalty is different if he only takes out Lando? If he doesn't take out the 2 Red Bulls as well? Should that mean the penalty is different? But again, but then we have to say, again, like when it comes to pushing people off track, pushing people wide, okay, should the outcome of pushing someone wide onto tarmac be different to pushing someone wide onto gravel? Because the outcome is very different. Push wide onto tarmac, they can carry on, arguably, make another move straight away. Onto gravel, like what happened with Lando and Perez, what happened with Perez and Leclerc, like. So I think the outcome has. I definitely think the outcome has to be considered. I just don't think it's. I don't think it is. What's the word I'm looking for? Realistic. I don't think it's. I don't think it's realistic to look at these incidents and not. Again, if you're going to say, right, outcome has zero correlation, then every time 2 drivers go side by side and one of them pushes the other one onto tarmac, you have to hit them with the same penalty as if they push them off onto gravel and they spin out and crash. But that just doesn't happen, and that won't happen. Like, you can't expect that to happen, and I wouldn't want that to happen. I think the drivers know the tracks, right? If you're consciously pushing a driver wide onto a piece of tarmac where you know that they'll lose a bit of momentum because they'll hit the rumble strips, maybe have a bit of a bumpy ride, right? To lose a bit of pace, but then they can slot back in. I think that's a very different conscious decision a driver's making compared to pushing someone onto gravel when they know that's gonna ruin their race. You know what I mean? So it's one of them, innit? I think 5 places is probably. I mean, what he took out himself. He took out 3 other cars. 5 places. I mean, starts are very important. Where you start a race is very important. 10 place, 5 place, maybe 10 place. I mean, Stroll's got the same as well. He got 5 place, but then he only took out 2 cars. You know what I mean? It does. What I will agree on is that taking the outcome too much into consideration does make it very complicated. Very complicated, but we'll see. Thank you, Rajesh, again, the tech support officer, for another $2 Aussie, mate. Tictum swallowing his words after Latifi P8. Yeah, I heard Tictum was getting a bit leery about Latifi on Twitch a few days ago, but Dan Tictum's a bit of a loose cannon. What can you say? Should be 10 place. Yeah, maybe it should be 10 place. I wouldn't disagree with that. I think 5 place sounds okay, but I mean, 5 places is still a lot of places. Like, if Bottas qualifies P3, which is what you'd probably expect, then he'll be starting P8, which is pretty low. And again, we know Bottas struggles to get through the traffic. Yeah, which which sucks for him, but is what it is. All right, cool. I'm just going to answer some random questions in chat. I think it's fair that Stroll and Bottas get the same penalty. Agreed. I think regardless of the fact that Bottas took out one more car, I still think they deserve the same penalty. Whether that's 5 or 10 seconds. 5 grace grid pen is nothing at Spa. True, we are Belgium next. Yeah, maybe 10 place. Maybe 10 place. 2 penalty points only. Actually, yeah, I think the penalty points is an interesting one. So they both only got 2, which is the same amount of penalty points that Yuki got for crossing the white line twice, wasn't it? At Austria. I mean, it does seem... I do feel that both drivers deserve more penalty points. Maybe 3. Maybe 4. To make that big of a cock-up and take out that many drivers. Collectively, they took out... Including themselves, they took out 7 drivers. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4... Oh no, 5 drivers. I can't count. Ignore me. 2 penalty points per car hit. Oof. Yeah, but the thing is though, like, I don't know. There's been instances in there, like when Hulkenberg locked up and hit the back of Alonso and he went flying over Charles at Spa, like, and that was in dry. That was really bad from Hulkenberg. I think with the wet weather, you have to. If that had been in the dry, it'd have been even worse because there's less of an excuse. In the wet, I get that. But again, it's the responsibility of the person behind to get the car stopped, you know? Yeah, Norris got 3 for pushing Perez wide. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. The FIA do what they want to do anyway, so. Ocon and Seb runs the pit lane was gold. It was. That was good vibes. Meg, thank you again for the SGDs. Oh, and thank you, Marcy, for the $4.99. The sad thing is nobody will ever be satisfied with a penalty regardless. It's true. Everyone's going to have their own opinion. No one agrees. It's sport, isn't it? That's just the way it is. But it'd be boring if we all agreed all the time, wouldn't it? Yeah, Meg, how frustrating was the race for you, 1 to 10? Frustrating? I wouldn't call it frustrating. I guess at the start it was a bit frustrating because I felt like we were robbed of a few good battles. Again, Verstappen, Hamilton would have been good to see how that would have, turned out. So that was frustrating at the start, but the rest of the race was just stress and vibes. So I'd give it frustrating. I'd say maybe a 4 out of 10, just because I was a bit frustrated to not see to see so many drivers taken out. Wasn't great at the time, but it ended up turning into an amazing race, didn't it? When Lando got a 3-place grid drop at Baku, he got 3 penalty points. Bottas gets 5-place grid drop and only 2 penalty points. Yeah, that does seem a bit weird, Phoebe. I don't really get that. My screaming backseat driver. There was a lot more screams that didn't make the cut as well. Hamilton's move on Yuki was brilliant. He did make a very good move on Yuki. That's what I mean. Like Hamilton had a very good race. Like he qualified P1, which kept him out of the trouble. Then the team did cock up on the old strategy by not pitting him. But then it gave us one of the most iconic images of recent Formula One, of ever in Formula One, which is one driver with old burnt Mylander sat behind in the medical car. Although, no, he drives the safety car, doesn't he? Whoever the guys are, the guys who pulled Grosjean out, those guys who drive the medical car. Iconic. Absolutely iconic. Great meme. Dakar 44's got, I'm sure he's working very hard right now. Yeah, Rosberg was quality on the comms. He was really good if you were listening to the to Sky Sports or whichever com, F1 TV, whatever. He was great. Alan van der Merwe, that's it. Big man Alan. Oh yeah, Science post-race interview was jokes, wasn't it? So if you haven't seen Science's post-race interview, he's chatting to Will Buxton, and then I think just as the interviews, or no, I think Will gets it in his ear that Carlos has been summoned to the stewards, but Carlos doesn't know. So Will's like, "You've been summoned to the stewards," and Carlos is like, "It's so funny. It's so funny." And Will doesn't really know like what it's for, so it sounds like, but it didn't end up being anything. It ended up being just some like procedure before the race problem. I don't even know what it was, but it wasn't like anything. He only got like a reprimand, which is basically just one of them slap on the wrist. Yeah, mate, Molina, the meme potential is a joke from this race. Have I seen Wide Alonso? Yes, I have, Luca. Wide Alonso is a great thing. Great meme. I might have to actually go on Reddit for the first time ever, because I'm sure there's going to be some great memes on Reddit. Should Lando get penalty for hitting Max because it wasn't his fault, but he still hit him? No, of course not, Sadie. Of course not. Why would he get... He's a passenger. Radio during form. Oh yeah, radio during formation. That's it. r/Tommo F1 win. Oh no, that's opening up a can of worms that I don't want to open up, to be honest. Carlos could have won the race if Ferrari got his pit stop right. Yeah, Carlos got caught up in traffic for a lot of the race, didn't he? You got to think that Carlos could have had an opportunity to win that. But P4, maybe P3. Still can't be too unhappy with that. Do I think McLaren will keep Ricciardo for 2022? Yes. I think that, again, Ricciardo took quite a while to get used to that Renault when he first jumped in it. And when he did, he was quality last year. So I just think that it's going to take a bit more time. I don't think, again, you look at adaptable drivers, Fernando, Carlos immediately come to mind. Someone like Daniel Ricciardo probably isn't the most adaptable, but if you give him a car that he loves, which I'd say the same about Sebastian Vettel, then happy days. They're flying. Thank you, Toby, again for another... Mate, Toby, you're far too kind. In Lando's interview, he said it was Bottas' fault, and then Bottas came up behind him and tapped him on the back. Yes, if you haven't seen that, I did retweet it earlier. So funny. So funny. Guys. So Lando, what happened? It's like, oh, well, it's Bottas' fault. Oh, hello, Valtteri. Oh. Again, to anyone, Seb's disqualification is pending Aston Martin's appeal. Hopefully, if they can prove there's the right amount of fuel in the car, he won't get disqualified. I don't know the details, but it's not 100%. Unless something's changed, like, since I went live. Which I don't think it has. No. Someone... If I can scroll down 4 times on my mouse on Twitter and it's not there, then it's definitely not changed. All right. Team should protest the penalty. Well, look, I think... What I do think is that it's good that we've had a lot of these incidents this year, because then everyone can sit down at the end of the year and agree on a penalty point system that is more fair. Because I don't think it's perfect. But at the same time, it's one of them that, you know, yes, it sucks when your favourite driver falls foul to a penalty point or whatever, but you've got to try, and we've all got to try and put our biases to one side and look at this objectively, take away all the names from these drivers and just look at them, right, what's the actual fairest way of governing this sport? I don't think it's perfect. I do think it could be improved. But yeah, and yeah, Netflix, oh my God, Drive to Survive. They need to have more episodes of Drive to Survive, I'm sorry. Please. People will watch it. Come on. We want 10 episodes. We could easily do 20. But they just need to do more episodes, because that was my biggest... I think Drive to Survive is great. I think it fits, it does its job perfectly. It's not there for the hardcore fan. It's there to make F1 more accessible, make people understand it, all right? It's not designed for us hardcore fans. It's like me watching a kid's TV show and saying it's terrible. Like, oh, what is this? There's no good storyline. It's like, well, it's not for me. But yeah, I think that I'd like to see more episodes, because I definitely think they definitely did gloss over a lot of really interesting storyline, and there's so much that's gone on this year that I think I hope they do more episodes. Just take the edit and stretch it, because they shoot enough footage to make more episodes. Definitely, so much will get cut. It's like it is. I've got like a little bit of experience in production from like my pre-YouTube days, and the amount that doesn't make the cut. Oh my God, they've got so much footage there. It's just waiting to be made. But again, yeah, Turkey, great example last year. No coverage from Turkey. I mean, maybe because, to be fair, COVID was more of a thing last year in terms of restrictions around access and all that. So I like to think this year as well, I think that's very important to say as well, like, not to shit on it too much, because not hiccups. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. Thank you, Grape DOT IMG as well, for joining Friends of Tommo. What was my job pre-YouTube? I was a graphic designer at a social media agency. Right. Thank you, everyone. I'm done. I think I've covered everything. That was a mad race. Again, I'm gonna put a link to the backseat driver episode if my keyboard decides to work, because it was. Oh, you just heard Ellie screaming there because I've just opened it. Let me stick it in the chat. Go give it a watch, and then you can see how stressed I was and how happy I was that Esteban won the race. Ah, Esteban won the race. Yes! Come on. And then you'll see how... Imagine if Alex had won a race under those... You know what made it even more stressful? The fact that Esteban was leading from so early on, and there was just that... If it had come through late, then it would have been... But the pressure for me was like building the whole race. So it's like... Oh, when he won, it was just... the emotions were mad. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. There will be a video this week, probably on Thursday, maybe Friday. We've got a 3-week break, so yeah. Thank you again. Appreciate all the support. Thank you to everyone who donoed in the old chat. You're far too good to me, you all really are. But yeah, cheers everyone. Hope you enjoyed the race. It was a banger, and I will see you later this week. Big up Williams, big up Alpine, big up Ocon, big up Verstappen for getting a point, big up Lewis for coming back and getting on the podium. Big up Seb, hopefully, hashtag justice for Seb. Right, later everyone, have a good day, goodbye, be good, be happy, drink water, be hydrated, get a vaccine if you haven't had one already, bye.